What if I told you that in the richest country on earth, nearly 38 million people live in poverty? That's 1 out of every 9 Americans. This isn't some distant problem. It affects your neighbors, your colleagues, and maybe even you. The United States, a global powerhouse, has one of the highest poverty rates among developed nations, and yet, most of us have no idea just how deep this crisis runs. Let's start with a number that might shock you: 38 million. According to the latest US Census Bureau data, that's how many Americans are officially living in poverty. This includes millions of children, senior citizens, and working adults. And when we say poverty, we're not just talking about being a little tight on cash. The official poverty line isn't a measure of comfort, it's a measure of bare survival. It is the income level below which a family is considered unable to afford basic necessities like food, housing, and healthcare. But here's the kicker. Even that line is misleading. It doesn't account for the modern realities of life. For instance, the Federal Reserve found that a huge number of American families, many living just above this line, couldn't handle a simple $400 emergency. Think about that. A car repair, a surprise medical bill, a broken appliance. Any of these small crises could push a family over the edge into financial ruin. That's because poverty in America isn't just about a low paycheck. It's about a complete lack of a safety net. No savings for emergencies, no affordable healthcare, and no stability. So, who is most affected by this invisible crisis? The data paints a clear picture. Children are especially vulnerable, with those under 5 facing the highest risks. Single mothers carry an enormous burden, often juggling low-wage work with the high cost of childcare. And systemic inequalities mean that Black and Latino households experience poverty at disproportionately high rates. People with disabilities and those working in sectors like retail, food service, or the gig economy are also on the front lines. And let's be very clear, having a job does not guarantee stability in America. Millions of full-time workers still find themselves below the poverty line. They work 40 hours a week or more, yet their wages are so low and their costs so high that they can't make ends meet. This isn't about a lack of effort, it's about a system where work no longer pays enough to live. This brings us to the cost of living crisis. Why does poverty persist even when people are working harder than ever? It's simple math. For over 2 decades, the cost of rent has skyrocketed, far outpacing wage growth. Owning a home is a distant dream for millions, and even renting a modest apartment can consume more than half of a family's income. Then there's healthcare. The US has some of the highest healthcare costs in the world. A single illness can lead to bankruptcy. Prescription drugs, insurance premiums, and out-of-pocket expenses are a constant source of stress and debt. And what about food? We see images of abundance everywhere, but the reality is that food insecurity is on the rise. Nearly 47 million Americans struggle to afford groceries. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. Families are choosing between buying food and paying the electricity bill. If you have children, you know the crushing weight of childcare costs, which in many states now rival college tuition. How can a parent get ahead when a huge chunk of their salary goes directly to daycare just so they can go to work? And don't forget transportation. In a country built around cars, getting to a job can be incredibly expensive, especially with fluctuating gas prices and the high cost of vehicle maintenance. For those without a car, limited public transit options can make it nearly impossible to access better-paying jobs. These rising costs have created a perfect storm. It does not matter how hard you work if your paycheck evaporates the moment it hits your bank account. This is why the old American mantra of just work harder is so damaging. We love the myth of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, the idea that anyone can succeed with enough grit. But poverty in America is rarely a personal failure. The data shows it's systemic. Economic mobility in the US is lower than in many other developed countries. This means that if you're born into a low-income family, your chances of climbing the ladder are incredibly slim. The cost of higher education, once a ticket to a better life, has become a massive barrier, saddling a generation with crippling debt. Meanwhile, for those without a degree, real wages, what your money can actually buy, have stagnated or even fallen for decades. Add to this the lack of paid family leave, sick days, and affordable healthcare, and you have a system that seems designed to keep people trapped. Wealth inequality starts at birth, creating a playing field that is anything but level. Poverty isn't a temporary phase for most. It's a trap. It's a vicious cycle that's incredibly difficult to escape. Let's walk through it. You have no savings, so you have no buffer for emergencies. When a crisis hits, you're forced to take on debt, often from high-interest payday loans or credit cards. This debt damages your credit score. With bad credit, you face higher interest rates on everything, and you're locked out of decent housing and affordable loans. Living in a worse, less stable neighborhood often means more stress, fewer opportunities, and worse schools for your kids. This instability makes it harder to hold down a job, keep your health in check, and plan for the future. And so the cycle repeats, passing from one generation to the next. It's a loop designed to keep people down, not a temporary setback they can overcome with a little bit of luck. Beyond the financial struggle, we have to talk about the psychological toll. Living with the constant grinding stress of not knowing if you can pay your rent or feed your children is devastating. It causes chronic anxiety and depression. In a culture that celebrates wealth and equates net worth with self-worth, being poor can bring overwhelming feelings of shame and failure. This is especially true for children, who experience higher rates of trauma and instability, affecting their development and their future. So if this problem is so massive, why don't more of us see it? Why isn't it front-page news every single day? One reason is that poverty in America is often invisible. It's not just in struggling inner cities. It's hidden in quiet suburbs, in rural towns, and among the working poor who smile and serve you coffee every morning. The media often focuses on individual stories of hardship or crime, rather than explaining the larger systemic forces at play. This leads many people to believe that poverty is something that only happens to other people, those who are lazy or made bad choices. Most Americans, when polled, estimate the poverty rate to be around 5%. The reality is more than double that. We are blind to a crisis happening right in front of us. This isn't just an economic issue, it's a moral one. A nation can't truly call itself the richest and greatest in the world if millions of its own citizens can't even afford to live in it. Poverty isn't the American dream failing. It is the reality of millions of Americans being locked out of that dream from the very start. Thank you so much for watching. If this video opened your eyes, please share it. Let's start a real conversation about what it means to build a country where everyone has a chance not just to survive, but to thrive. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the issues that shape our world. See you next time.